It has to be said that there are some quite remarkable features of the XFS file system. One of them is the backup and restore, and that's part of the objectives of the LPI Level 2 exam. But we also have things called freeze, so we can freeze the file system. So this is great where we want to pause any possible changes through to the file system, perhaps whilst we're doing something like an LVM snapshot or something like that. So there really are a lot of advanced features within the file system. We're going to be taking a look now at the backup and restore. So we have a utility xfsdump, and this is the backup utility. We can see from the output there's going to be something like this, xfsdump, and then -L for the level. 0 will be a full backup. -L1 would then be the first incremental backup after the full backup. -L2 would be the second incremental backup after the full backup, and so on. -F is the file or device to back up to. So you can see in the example here that we're backing up to a file, but this could be a tape device as well. And then we have the device that we're backing up. The reverse of this, if you like, the restore utility, xfsrestore, and then we can go through xfsrestore -F, so the file or the tape device that we want to restore from, and then we can specify either the label or the session ID. We're using capital L here, so we're restoring from the label of the backup, but we could also use -S and specify the session ID. And then we're specifying the path that we want to restore to. Let's take a look at this now on our CentOS machine, look at how we can carry out these backups and restores. So we're back working on the CentOS 7 machine. We're going to take a look at how we can create our backups. We'll be working with our boot directory because at least we've got reasonable content within the boot directory. So if I go through and do an xfsdump, we can specify the level, and this is going to be level 0, a full backup. And then we can specify that we want to back up to the file or device, but we're going to use -F to specify the path through to the file. So we can go through to a regular file and we can create this file. It doesn't need to exist. And then we're specifying to back up the boot directory. Remember, this all, of course, has to be part of an XFS file system. So we need to put a session label for the backup. But also the device itself, the file is a new file, so it's not labeled, so we need to put in a label for the backup device. So now then we can see that we've backed up, and it shows me the amount of bytes that is backed up. But we can also see this if I run ls-l, and of course just point through to the file. This is just a standard file in our file system. So /var/backup, and again we see then the same amount of bytes that we saw within the backup information. So this is great. We've got our full backup of the boot directory now. Now we've got to look at how we can start restoring this. If I use xfsrestore and the -I option, we're going to be displayed an inventory of the backups that we have. Session 1 is the session we're interested in. I did a test backup before, and that's session 0 that's scrolled off. But then this gives me the metadata about my backups, including the label names if I've forgotten. But I can restore by the label name or the session IDs. So we see the session label and the session ID there. Before I do my backup, I might just want to check the contents of the backup, and I can simply use xfsrestore and then -T to test the backup, and then putting the path through to the file, so -F, and then the path through to the file. And there we get to see, if you like, every file that exists within the backup, and that certainly looks like my boot directory to me. So I'm happy now to proceed with my restore. So with the restore then, we're going through and pointing through to the file again. But we're going to use either capital S, or in my case I'm using capital L for the label. So capital S would be the session ID, but here I'm using the label. and then I'm restoring to a different directory. I'm restoring through to the data directory here. But of course, now when I look at the data directory, it's the contents of the backup. So hopefully this gives you a great overview of what can be done through the xfsdump and restore utility.